So, Aaron.
Yes.
Welcome to Dragon Con.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here.
What are you truly enjoying, and maybe what's the funnest costume you've seen so far?
Yes, I saw. Okay, so the thing I'm enjoying most, I think, after being at Comic-Con for the last 3 years, is the interaction at Dragon Con. I mean, Comic-Con's a little bit different. You feel the fans, and you're sort of among them, but you're not. It's not the same kind of interaction level. I think that's what's so special about Dragon Con, and you can feel that kind of energy in the room where it's people interacting with fans and fans interacting with people, and I mean that's just, people are ecstatic all the time. There's just joy in the air everywhere, right? I mean, to the point where it's bursting out of their clothes, where they have to come dressed as Ursula from The Little Mermaid or whatever, and it's great to see. It's so much fun. I mean, and it's tireless. I just can't believe how it's a 24-hour event. It's also kind of like a Mardi Gras of cosplay and of cons, and so people are coming. I see the same people with like costume changes during the day where you're like, oh, you love Once Upon a Time too. Okay, we'll just keep going with that. And that's what's great about it, is it's just they're bursting out of everything. My favorite costume I've seen was I saw Stormtrooper Bob Ross. So he had, did you see that guy? He had like a full Stormtrooper head and a Bob Ross's body, so like carrying a pallet and had paint, stuff like that. And he had hair coming out of every hole of the Stormtrooper, just big brown curly hair coming out of every hole of the Stormtrooper thing. When they morph the costumes and they put like two together, that's I always get a kick out of that. That's the funnest.
I mean, they came in with their sewing machines.
They came in, they're making them in the lobby?
Sewing machines, you'll see sewing machines check in on Thursday and go to their hotel room so people can alter their costumes over the weekend.
They're just holding themselves up, like Huntress Thompson or something. They're just like, gotta get this out, Friday's the deadline. Wow. It's amazing, it's amazing.
And they're beautiful.
Have you seen any Hannibal costumes?
Yes, there's a lot of stags. There's a lot of people in full black paint and big antlers, sort of the nightmare stag that he has. Certainly a lot of Hannibals, a lot of Wills. Scott and I have seen a lot of Zeller and Prices, which is great. You know, this is specifically a great con for us because I think we're sort of like the audience of that show. We're kind of the normals, but I mean, not really normal people, but we're not murderers. And so people relate to us a little bit different. It's not it's not like some sort of dream they're having. It's not like Mads Mikkelsen. Who can relate to Mads Mikkelsen? I mean, I certainly don't. I can't imagine what his life is like. But certainly with Scott and I, it's a little bit more. I mean, we're not normal people, but it's a little bit more normal that they can come up in lab coats and sort of covered in blood, of course, and talk to us. And that's what's great for us too.
I'll keep it simple and like geek fandom, sci-fi fandom, all the different fandoms have truly exploded all ages now.
Yes.
What do you think are some of the advantages for the industry or for the fans that it's changed so much and much more open?
I mean, I'm not sure. It's just become more acceptable, right? I think those older fans or younger fans for whatever particular shows were always there. It just wasn't cool, or it wasn't. And that's what's great about the explosion of cons in general, is that, you know, nerd or geeks are, like when I grew up, that was, I guess, something mean you'd throw at somebody, but in reality it's now been, it's a word that doesn't mean anything bad at all to me. I don't hear it that way. It's someone whose love for something is so passionate that it's sort of coming out of them, and there's no regard to it being cool enough. And so, what was the question? Yeah, so yeah, it's just become more acceptable. Yeah. I'm not sure that those fans were new fans; they were just closet fans, and now there's no need for that closet to exist anymore because of cons like this, and because it's just society's been like, yeah, that's cool, you can wear that.
How do you think Hannibal got into that geek culture along with the sci-fi and the fantasy and everything like that? Because it really is a big part of
it is, and it is
fandom.
It is a very specific one too. I'm not sure. It's almost weird for me. I don't know, but it's dialed everything up to 11, right? So it's very high concept, it's dialogue. Brian Fuller already has his claws in sort of the con world. Like Pushing Daisies is another one where I see a lot of Pushing Daisies cosplay out there. It doesn't necessarily feel like it fits here, but it kind of fits perfectly as well. It's something about Brian, he's not entirely mainstream, but there's mainstream pop culture all throughout his work. And so it's this Venn diagram sort of crossroads that is a perfect equation for people coming out here and liking his work. There's sort of old-fashioned horror, and there's this high-brow artistic horror involved with Hannibal, the same way Pushing Daisies was sort of light and twee, but also was completely new. There's something very familiar, because he's a film buff. He's almost like a Tarantino or something. So he's taking things that he's got in his amazing, brain, and he can memorize books or whatever. He can just be like, that passage goes here, and this scene, and this, and so he has that energy too, where he's just kind of a genius, a mad genius, and that's what comes across in his work. And I think that's probably what reaches fans. He's also the best at dealing with fans.
When you're watching Hannibal, a lot of times you ask yourself, like, how is this on network television? Because that pushes,
I do it
so
when
many
we're shooting, I
boundaries.
do it when I get the script, I do it when it's on the television. There's a lot, like the first scene I ever shot for Hannibal ever. I showed up, first season, I'm like a little unclear about how this is gonna, and I had my face in a lady's pubes. She was like on the antlers, and they're just like, I was like, okay, so how do you want me to do this where I'm not going to be involved with any nudity? And they're like, no, just put your face in her pubes. Just put your face right down in there like this. And it's just like whistling. So yeah, the show never pulled any punches in that regard. And NBC, God bless them, they never did anything either. I mean, the only note I think we got that whole first season was about the angel people. They didn't want that ass crack. They saw a bit of ass crack, and they're like, can you CGI some blood from their opened up backs into the ass crack to cover that up? So, listen, they have this violence was never a problem, and I think partly because it's so operatic and it's gorgeous violence. It's not that, plus everybody was affected by the violence in the show. It wasn't just, there's nothing casual about it. Like Will was having a nervous breakdown every time he had to look at that stuff, as a person would. So he was showing some sort of real effects of that violence.
When did you guys become, as a cast, like self-aware that of what you had, what you created, like that it had this fandom? When did that really sink into you guys?
Oh. I mean, it must somewhere during the first season. I know that I was never a big Twitter guy, and I saw how Brian was connecting with fans over Twitter, and how that's what it was about. I don't think I ever got Twitter. I was on shows before, and they're like, you should tweet, you should live tweet. And I'm like, why? What a... I'm like, oh, we gotta get the hashtags out. And you're like, who cares? Hashtag, well, what? And then I saw what Brian was doing, how he's connecting to fans, and how important it was to support that fan base back and have an actual interaction with them, so that they feel involved. And they are involved with this show. I mean, he listens to them. He certainly takes what they say into consideration. And that's how I got involved in Twitter. And I think through Twitter, I mean, you can quickly realize that people are sending me photos all day, every day about just their costumes and their homemade stuff that I'm seeing every day here. So it's great to be here. And I mean, that's why that's when it was somewhere during the first season. People were like, oh, right, we're on a Brian Fuller show. Right. This is gonna be great.
Was there any trepidation with taking on a series that's based on a very popular property, especially with the pedigree of Silence of the Lambs out there?
I thought it was a terrible idea. No, but I mean, I thought it was so impossible. It was impossible. And Maz is so great, but I don't think he gets quite enough credit for basically playing this iconic role that's associated with one guy who did it one way. And for him to come along and be like, yeah, I'm not going to make you miss that guy, but I'm going to do a totally different thing in a totally different kind of thing. I mean, that's crazy to me. I mean, if someone came along and played James Bond, it was like, I'm going to do my own thing with it, though. People would murder that guy. And there's nothing, I mean, he's kind of in the same top 5 iconic characters, I think, Hannibal Lecter. And for him to come along and be able to pull off this performance without losing anything that Hopkins brought, and sort of adding his own flares to it, and making nobody sort of constantly think about the Hopkins performance while looking at him is, it should be impossible. This whole show should be impossible, the fact that it worked at all. But Brian created such a world that it works great. It's so thoroughly imagined.
What role do you think cinematography plays in that? Because I think people have really, or audiences have come to be able to appreciate your show and Mr. Robot and some others who have really, that have really taken on cinematography.
Well,
and
cinematic quality for sure. I mean, I think that was important to bring the movie to television and have it not feel less than in the same way. I mean, you have to make it sort of feel like you're watching a movie. I know that was important, as well as developing a style that helped with the violence, with sort of having that palette by having it look so great. And what was the crap? What's that?
Well, cinematography.
Oh yeah,
It covers so many
well
bases.
that's just Brian's style. I mean, I think Pushing Daisies also, like, just aesthetic is such a big part of what he commands. Everything is dialed to 11, so it's dialogue and its character and its look and its sound and its color, and that's always how he wanted it. And for the violence to be that big, I think the emotional violence had to be that big, and then it becomes a full-on opera essentially, because everything's dialed up so much that the look has to match those two things. And so it just fits. It almost wouldn't work any other way. So I commend them. And bringing David Slade along and sort of having him also he's a big part of the look of the show, and his DP and Jim is amazing. So it's those two guys as well as Brian.
I've been through the green card process with my wife from overseas. It's a pretty intense process to begin with.
Where are you from?
My wife is from Australia, so we're
Okay.
there with her, but I have to sit there with her and we have to show everything and prove everything.
They don't
But-
believe that she married you.
No. Well,
That's another
the way I pick my coverage,
It's a
but,
scam. You're trying to scam us.
but we didn't have to quite go through what you had to go through.
Right. That was my lawyers didn't like those tweets very much. I got once with the green card process, and I think when, those interviews that you have to have, if it's about a marriage or something, they have questions they can ask you. When it's me, or for a person who, I don't know what they call it, it's like a person of special ability or something like that. Just to be like, are you you? Are you you? Like, they have the internet, they know they're you, so they have 20 minutes where they sort of have to put you through the gears, but there's no gears to put you through. So he just put my IMDb page up, and he went through credits, and he was like, "You're in Resident Evil?" I was like, "No." He's like, "The internet's lying to me." And I was like, "No, I was cut from Resident Evil." Oh, okay. So you want a green card for special ability, but you were cut from Resident Evil. Okay. And he just went down inside of kind of gave me the gears over every credit, and I was like, "Oh, this is my nightmare. This is like what every actor's hell is like. This is amazing." It was, and then I tweeted it like an idiot after the meeting, and my lawyers were like, "Oh, you just screwed up your whole green card. You're never going to get one now." So I had to take it all down, but Entertainment Weekly had already picked it up. It was a bit of a nightmare. It took a lot longer than it was supposed to, because I'm an idiot. But also, he was nice. Like, he was doing his job, and he did not know he was entertaining. I'll say that about that guy. He was good. But yes, he had 6 or 7 pretty grade A zingers.
What would you say your character's final opinion of Will was, like, overall?
I think I was there's a lot of respect. I mean, I think at the beginning I was so disrespectful, and some of it was cut where, I'm sleeping with Freddie Lowndes just to give secrets about Will away because I was so jealous and threatened. And I think now they sort of just boiled it down to respect. You had a guy who was sweating and twitching in the corner, and we were supposed to trust his hunches, where previously I was probably the smartest guy in the room. Don't tell Jimmy that. And I think that over time, and I also thought he was a crazy murderer. So when he's not, there's an apology scene, and I think that's extremely genuine. And then I'm very supportive of everything. I think when he comes back after he's not a murderer, I'm the first guy to be like, yeah, like basically whatever he says, he's the greatest. This guy is the greatest. So I think it's a full 180 and a realized one. I mean, the apology makes it sort of not just like a flip-flop character. There's something going on. But yeah, I think that I think I'm Will proponent number one when he comes back. Even Jack is more skeptical of Will once he comes back than I am.
What do you think is the in season 3, the reasons of what was going on in the story that your character, and in fact Scott's as well, became a little bit more in the background? They weren't quite as far forward.
Well, I think they wanted to get into backstory, and they wanted to see. I mean, the first half of the season is really great, but it's sort of a different kind of serialized than we've been doing. I mean, it's entirely it's backstory, and it's 4 people on the hunt, and it's in Europe, and it just becomes global, and it just blows up. The first 3 episodes are very ethereal and poetic. They're almost a bit of a different tone than the rest. That first 6 or 7 episodes, and I kind of feel like that's the ideal vision for Brian. I mean, as much as Scott and I would love to be in every episode and have great things to do, you know, that's every time I hear that's what Brian wants. I mean, he wanted to do a show that was as out there as possible, and those first 6 or 7 are pretty out there, and they're very serialized, and they're just going deep into those books, into the backstory of those characters. And there's no room for any procedural stuff or any exposition. I think that's always been in the background of the show. What are you doing? Oh, it's just spinning my wheels.
Hello, everybody.
Scott Thompson, everybody. Scott Thompson.
Hello.
Also, yeah, again, apologies. We did not know.
Anybody have a spoon?
Is anyone a heroin addict here?
Yeah, I can start with a syringe. Anybody need a Coke spoon?
Sorry, the IV drips in the room.
Yeah.
How about the coffee beans?
Just give me a second.
There's a little scoop in the coffee beans.
That'll work. I like that.
Keeps with the coffee bean.
First question, obviously, I smoke heroin. I don't shoot it. I have a fear of spoons. But scoops are different, aren't they? Eric, what a boondoggle this morning, eh?
Well, I don't know where no one knew where we were supposed to be.
No idea.
But now we're here. I gotta tell you, it's pretty good. It's pretty good in here.
I'm not dreaming, am I? We had a good night last night. How's everybody today?
Very good. I love you. You're wearing a suit.
I am.
You're cosplaying up as a person.
I finally understand cosplay. I am like responsible person. There's like a responsible.
Yeah, this is your costume today.
I meant to have I had another shirt on, but I couldn't get it.
You couldn't get it on.
I couldn't get it on because I had cufflinks and my hands don't work so well.
You get booze bloated in your.
I just don't have a lot. I don't have a lot of fine motor control.
This would be a great.
Interesting.
You just have a brief stroke in the middle of it.
So you didn't know about this either?
No, I came I think 5 minutes ago, and I'm sorry, I don't know who's next or what's happening.
Yeah, who's are you guys? I'm sorry. I'm Scott.
This is Scott.
I guess I'll jump right in and ask a question. After Beverly's death, the dynamic that changed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe what you feel like was the biggest changes and how that kind of like played into how you took your characters in the direction you did?
I'm curious to see how you do.
Well,
No, I think I mean we kind of look. I understand why it's tricky because it did free us up
A little bit.
I think part of what that death was evolve our characters in a fun way. I don't know exactly why that is.
I think they took Beverly in a more serious way.
Yeah, Beverly was
And they
more
let
serious
us
character,
go.
so now it's just ping-ponging, and the energy becomes a little bit more frenetic because it's 2 people. I know that makes it sound like we were reveling in her death or something, but it's just the natural evolution. I mean, we mourned her death, and we had episodes and scenes where we were crying. This one,
We did cry.
yeah, we cried.
But I did think it did free, as he said, freed us up for a little bit more like comedy duo behavior.
Sure, it's a little slapstick.
Like so, yeah, they took Beverly on a more straight dramatic path that would end with her death and thinly sliced, and ours they took us down like a
path where we're like trying to pick up a hat, but we keep kicking it.
yeah,
Things like that.
yeah, exactly. like a path that went like this.
Yeah, but it was. I think that's best for us.
It is.
Not that Hetty, I would love her if Hetty were still on the show. She's a good friend of ours, but certainly for those scenes, it freed us up to be idiots.
I guess, for the rhythm.
Yeah, and it puts us in the boat. We can both be in the same shot, so we can talk over each other and say whatever the hell we want.
How important do you think the comedy that you guys are able to share on the set is needed in a show that has such heavy material in it otherwise?
As much as bubbles are needed in a glass of ginger ale.
Oh God!
I couldn't say right now. I didn't say ginger ale.
Ginger ale isn't very dark and bloody and things
That's
like that.
outrageous.
I know.
I've never heard you speak like that.
I know. I know. I have totally different rhythms this morning.
Yeah, it's all similes and metaphors with you today.
You know, what was the question?
Well, just how important is the humor on such a dark show?
Well, that's funny. I think the humor is all
on
through
camera or on set?
On set.
Well, on set,
Oh, on
everyone's
set.
funny.
Oh, they're all like
Maz
that.
is a
Oh, they
riot.
are.
Yeah.
You yell cut and he'll start breaking into dance,
Yeah.
and he can't stand being serious for 1 second. And Hugh is also really funny. There's not a non-funny person on that cast, which is.
Eddie was funny. Everyone had a good sense of humor, and everybody knew how to. Everybody was.
I think it's
funny.
weird.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, everybody got along. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard this all weekend. Like, oh, we're not a family, and we're not a family.
No, we weren't family.
We're just cool coworkers who get along great because we're all nice and good. Anyone who says they're a family is lying.
Yeah, it's
They mean it. They're trying to disguise the truth, and the truth is that they're either trying to say they're a kind of family who kind of doesn't get along, because that's most families, or they're incestuous. That's what they mean. They mean one of those two things. Our cast is not a family. They're great people who like working together. Yeah.
I think what Aaron's trying to say is, we're all born alone, we die alone.
Yeah, I went the long route. Mine was a little bit more flowery. But yes.
Like, for example, like Lawrence, who has never done comedy before. I mean, has always had a very dramatic career. Yeah, used us like a bloodsucker to before he did Blackish.
Yes.
He did. He sucked us dry like a vampire.
Yes, he was constantly talking about how he wanted to do comedy the first season.
He was.
And he immediately started doing it. He did the Kevin Hart movie with Ice Cube. So, but he's the greatest deadpan guy. Like, he's making us so much. He's really helped. I don't think knew that we were allowed to be funny until he started doing that deadpan stuff in the first season.
I think it's the cut too that makes people laugh.
And we were seeing what he was doing, and I was like, oh, we should be crazier because of this. He's not tolerating us for 1 second.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
I love the cut too. And it's just that face, you know. Next. You know, that makes me laugh. I love that.
We actually need to have Drunk on TV come and set up for the next one.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry to cut it short.
Okay.
Did you guys get what you want?
Yeah.
But you guys have just a few moments while.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry about this morning, but it's just you know.
It wasn't on anything. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't. It wasn't because he's hammered.
I'm not hammered.
Yeah, no. I'm just.
No, I'm not. I'm not even really hungover.
You seem fine.
No, I'm fine.
Except for that metaphor thing that you did.
Last night we were up pretty late though.
Yeah, I left you.
Yeah, you did. I was up later.
I just want to ask one more quick thing. If you had an opportunity to be in Italy for the first half of the season, what could have been the potential? Like, what do you think you guys could have done if you've been able to be there?
Well, everybody was trying to track Hannibal. Like, there was a lot of manhunting going on that we could have assisted, and I also thought we would have been just as rogue as everybody else. And so either it was helping Jack, or helping Will, or helping anybody. I mean, everybody was sort of over there on their, just in secret, because they were like, I'm here to murder. Oh, we also could have, if they had asked our help, we were like, yeah, we also like to murder him. We can help, we have skills that could help you murder. So we would have, I think just us in that backdrop would have been probably too ridiculous. Cobblestone streets and...
I would have gotten people like espresso and croissants and
like a fetching guy.
I would have been a fetching guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jack. I'll be back with the green. So yeah, sorry. I guess more important people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.